My name is Bob Compton. I'm here today with Tierney, my co-host. Rebecca Johnson's down the other end of the table. And then we have Justin Kay, our guest of honor today. Thank you all for joining us. This has been a long overdue breakfast meeting, but I think it's going to be well worth the wait. Justin has a new story to tell. And I originally invited Justin to the breakfast meeting. It was going to be December 16th. And I reached out to Justin to ask him if he'd like to come on and join me, because I feel that Justin sets an example that I like to follow, and I think we should all follow, as to what it means to be a good person and what it means to succeed at the Agora companies. I've known Justin now for 20 years. April 3rd was Justin's 20th anniversary. So that just happened. And I used to see Justin when he would come and visit his mother, Audrey Kay, who hopefully she's on, I don't know. She used to work in our accounts payable department. I had the office at the end of the hall at 14 West on the 3rd floor. It was a closet. And to get into the accounts payable department, I could enter this plywood door that had a little hook eye latch. And I would just flick the latch, I'd walk through, and often I would see Justin there talking to his mom. And I got to know Justin. Justin worked in our mailroom. And every time I would see Justin, he was always smiling. He was always extremely pleasant. And there was nothing negative about his demeanor. He was just a pleasure to be around. And over the years, I watched Justin evolve. He pushed himself to become part of the IT team. And he is a success story, one of our success stories. He's now the senior systems engineer for our IT department. But before Justin came to us, Justin grew up in East Baltimore. I read the book Beast Side. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's pretty interesting. It's about living and dying while Black in America. Needless to say, it's not a very pleasant place to grow up. That was Justin's environment. When you think of the book, The Other Westmore, about the two Westmores, well, Justin knew the other Westmore, the one that did not write the book, the one that's incarcerated. Needless to say, it's not a pleasant place to grow up as a child. And Justin dealt with a lot of the challenges of growing up around the wrong people, the wrong environment. And we'll hear about that. But he has much more. Justin mentors kids. I don't think everybody knows that. He gives a lot of his time. And all of this is pre-COVID. That's what I find fascinating. He was this incredible person pre-COVID. And I referred to pre-COVID as Justin's, how old are you now? 42. He just celebrated a birthday as well on April 3rd. He's 42. His first 41 years, that's pre-COVID. These last 5 months are post-COVID. I think they're probably the most impactful months of his life. And that's what I'm really excited to hear about. So we're going to bring Justin on. If you have any questions, please submit them via the chat, and we will get those. Tierney will read them off. So that's pretty much it. I think there's a lot that we can learn from Justin, from his character and from who he is, and from his journey. And I think it's going to be really interesting to ask certain questions of Justin, not so much for his first 41 years, but for his past 5 months. So with that, Tina, I'm going to turn it over to Justin. We good? All right. Well, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin, as Bob said a few times, and I'll be talking about my journey working at Agora 14 West companies over the past 20 years. I was hired on my 21st birthday in 2001 for a mailroom position. Meet baby Justin. I was about 3-4 here at my grandmother's house, who passed away when I was young. I would like to say my childhood was a beautiful struggle, especially those middle school and high school years. My mother was not in the best financial shape growing up, so I felt I had to grow up and be the man of the house and contribute. My mother moved to Essex in the 90s. I went to an elementary and middle school in Essex, but on the weekends and summers, I spent my time in East Baltimore. When she started at Agora and we became more stable, we moved to the Greenmount area, and that's where we lived for the 15 years of my life. My mother moved to Greenmount in 23rd, to be specific, in the early mid 90s, where I would say I grew up and learned my hard knock lessons.
And Green Mountain Avenue is a dangerous place.
It's one of the most dangerous places in Baltimore. This is my mother, Audrey K. My mother was a military woman. A lot of people don't know this about Audrey K, but she was a weapons specialist in the National Guard. And she took me to the armory as a boy to play, and I got into things. My mother and I always didn't have the best relationship. I respected her more than I loved her at a young age. She just wasn't an affectionate woman, and I think that was the military. Her being military-minded and me being bull-headed kid with strong will, we always clashed. I realized early in life I had issues with authority. My mom was always tough on me. My mother was a single mother raising 2 boys in what is known as one of the most violent and hostile neighborhoods in Baltimore City, Green Mountain Avenue area. What was it that allowed my mother to succeed with these challenges? My mother is a hard worker. I learned that early on she is stubborn as a mule, which means she doesn't stop working on a task until it's complete. If work doesn't start till 9 a.m., you can believe Audrey K started at 8 a.m. She wasn't leaving until 6 p.m. She made sure she was the first one in and the last one out. And I think that was the military mindset for her. What became of my father? My mother met my father in the military, but they were long separated since I was born. We met a few times, talked over the phone through the years. The last time I saw him was during divorce proceedings, and it was very uneventful and cold. My mother would go away on assignments and deployments, and I would have to stay with my grandmother's sister, Aunt Josephine, on East Biddle Street, not too far from Johns Hopkins. My mother wasn't one of those parents who didn't explain herself. She said what she meant, and she meant what she said, if you heard that saying. This is my Aunt Josephine and my cousin who's on the Zoom today. I grew up in this household, and she was more like a sister. Aunt Josephine had one of those houses that was filled with family. It was the drop-off point for other family members in need, if need be. She was the matriarch of the family, and this is where the family would meet on holidays. My grandmother died. My aunt's sister, my grandmother, died from diabetes complications when I was too young to remember who she was. And Josephine naturally stepped into that role as my grandmother. So you may hear me reference her as my grandmother. But she's my great aunt. She managed to feed a house full of 7+ on a little row home on Biddle Street. Until this day, I don't know how she did it, but she did it. She was receiving government assistance and on a fixed income, but I never recall missing meals at Josephine's. She was one of my early heroes. I could do no wrong in her eyes. She called me K-Boy. This is the 90s, my rough patch in the road. I started making bad decisions early. In these photos, this is me, 14, 15, at Savage Mountain Youth Facility in Lonaconee, Maryland. The staff knew my name. Man, I used to live in juvenile facilities. Charles Hickey, Boys Village, Foster Camp. They all knew me in the early 90s. No male role models were around in my life at the time, so I got my lessons in the streets. I was hanging out with wrong crowds. I had negative influences in my life. These aren't excuses, these are just what it was. And the number one thing is I was broke. I was a teen. I wanted new things, new shoes. I wanted to be able to buy stuff and be independent. I didn't want to ask anyone for anything. I wanted to make my own money. Well, this line of thinking and this line of life eventually landed me in jail a few times. I never been to a prom or walked across a high school stage for graduation at this time in my life. All that skipped me. I was knee deep in street life during this chapter, and I'm not proud of it. Second chances. Fast forward a little bit. This is me enrolling to a GED program. I eventually walked down the aisle, and my mom noticed I was trying to turn my life around. I just had my second daughter in 2001. Mom said she could probably hook me up to get a position in the mailroom at this company called Agora. Lo and behold, I get the position. I was happy to have this second chance. I remember it being one of the best birthdays ever. I started in the mailroom as a delivery guy and then a mailroom operator. New baby, just in time. You can see my second oldest in the picture to the right, Justice here. I was just so grateful and ready to be on another chapter in my life. I was serious about being a good dad. The mailroom was a great opportunity for me. I was really ready to prove myself that when I first started in the mailroom, I don't recall there being a fulfillment house. I remember doing about 10 to 15 bins of mail a day, taking it to the post office for the Oxford Club and other affiliates doing their fulfillments in-house. One funny story about the mailroom, I had a lot of bosses. Over the 4 or 5 bosses doing my mailroom tour, I said there wasn't going to be a 6th, and I'm going to be the 6th boss. I came up with this speech I was going to tell Miles Norton about having the opportunity to be the manager of the mailroom, and I rehearsed this speech in my head over and over, and he gave it to me without letting me say my speech. I remember Miles, meeting with Miles, and he's saying, "Justin, this is your store. Treat it like your business. Hire a backup." And I was like, really? That was it? That was just too easy. And I never had that back and forth movie scene, fist pounding on the table argument with Miles I thought I was going to have to get this position, which was probably best. I took my job very seriously and personally, and I wanted to get the mail out, rain, sleet, or snow, like the old post office motto. I really never took vacations. I just grinded, and I had a point to prove, and I wanted to be valued. And that went well for me. I think the customers were happy. More setbacks, but I really won't consider them setbacks. I consider them blessings now, looking back on the story. These is my daughters and I. At the time, the mom and I didn't get along. Eventually, we split, and I wound up being a single dad. These are my daughters, Justice, 6 at the time, and Jasmine, 9, when this photo was taken. This is my first apartment. I call it my crackhead loft apartment. I called it that because it was like a row house that was split up into 3 apartments, and above me and below me, crackheads lived above me and below me. I became the primary care provider for both of my girls when they were 6 and 3. This made me grow up and be a responsible adult faster than I wanted to be. I really learned the struggles of being a single dad. Financially, I wasn't making enough to pay for a full week's worth of daycare. Some days I would have to leave and drop them off to family members. Or on the days I couldn't afford daycare, it wasn't a big deal to bring my kids to work and sit next to me during the summer months. This flexibility to leave work and pick up kids from school and come back to work really helped me out a lot. It wasn't every day, but when I needed it, that flexibility really helped me. I also learned that the system isn't set up for single dads. I learned you don't qualify for a lot of supplemental services as you would if you were a single mother with kids. Fast forward to now, I have a story as a mentor. One of the families I mentored was a single dad, and he was getting evicted in the winter months a few years ago. And I suggested to him we call a shelter and kind of get things moving before he got evicted. And I found out, which was sad, that the lady was saying on the phone that we don't have a shelter in place for dads with kids. We will have to split that family up and put the kids in foster care. And that was their only option. They didn't have an alternative. So I was able to grind and raise some funds and prevent him from being evicted. And that really, stayed on my heart for a long time. That if you're a single dad, to don't get in trouble and face adversities if you have kids under your care. This is me at my first holiday party. This was the first time I wore a suit that was not at a funeral. I got to meet some of the big wigs at Agora and some people I eventually looked up to. This is me meeting Bill Barner in 05, 06, when the company was small enough to meet people and they actually knew who you were. And to the right, our lawyer, Matt Turner. This is also what I eventually meet Bob Compton, and of course, Mr. Christmas Party himself, Daryl Berber. This is my first Christmas party. I didn't miss a Christmas party since. This is I call it the pre-iPhone era, because these pictures were taken with an actual portable camera. I enjoyed it. I never missed one. These are my favorite social events, also known as the Agora Proms. Relationship building is, I believe, part of my success. And this is a really good opportunity to build relationships with people who you say are your customers. Everyone was pleasant. I really enjoyed them. People would see me and tell me I was sharp and I looked nice, and that really built my confidence. I took pride in making people happy and satisfying people's needs, and that affirmation just did a lot for me. I really enjoyed being someone's guy, and that was one of the things that drove me over the years. How I started transitioning from the mailroom to IT, photo to the left, I worked my way out of my crackhead loft apartment and got a new space with AC and internet. I was transitioning. How did I start? At that time, I was delivering mail to buildings, and the IT guys would ask me, "Hey, Justin, since you're going to, say, 819, do you mind taking over this computer for us?" And I would, of course, say yes. Yeah, no problem. And that would evolve to, "Hey, Justin, would you take this computer over, and can you set it up on the desk for us?" And I would say, "Of course." And then before you know it, those tasks evolved into me delivering, configuring, moving computers, printers, people, and that was my primary entry-level role into IT. As you can see on the picture on the left, my little desk and lots of books. I was given the opportunity to work in IT, and I wasn't going to fail. I would study every night and determined to get better and better. I wanted to be the best support guy I could be. We used to have gym equipment in some of the buildings. This is where I met Jason Pell and Bob Ernst in a 702 basement. And we would talk, and they liked my personality. And they eventually offered me a full-time position in IT. So I would say meeting people, being personable, and really helped me get opportunities over the years that I'm thankful for. What is a secret for me at Agora? I would say my success is taking issues personally. I put customers first, and I'm known people pleaser. I really want to solve your problems. And for me, it's really hard to back away from troubleshooting once I'm in it. You're stuck with me until we're done. I love puzzles and patterns. I like troubleshooting new issues that make me dig and research and getting the wheels turning and finding the answers like the best gratification. This is a young Crystal K, my wife, in the middle. We met on the spur of Baltimore. A friend of mine would throw summer parties once a summer, and we met and clicked immediately. We dated for about 4 years before we were married. She is the frugal one of the family, and I needed that. She taught me how to manage money and credit. She definitely was a necessary piece to my puzzle. This photo on the right is our home. We purchased this home in 2011, another big moment for me. I was the first home owner in my immediate family. So, working at IT, I'm married, I purchased a home, I'm feeling valued now. I'm living the dream. And I owe that all to, the Agora companies and the opportunities I was given over the years. I don't know what I would do without this opportunity. If I ever had to fill out a resume, it's only going to have one job listed as employment, and it will say Agora 14 West for the past 20 years. I started on my 21st birthday, and I'm still here at 42, but I still feel like I'm 21. The positions I've held in the past, from mailroom delivery, the operator, help desk support, and now senior system engineer, really helped me grow and appreciate what people can do for you and what you can do for other people. Over the years, personally and professionally, this company's pulled me out of the mud plenty of times, and I'm just so grateful. This is my family. Not some of the most recent photos. My kids, as they got older, they don't like to take pictures with me anymore. They take selfies now and pictures for social media, but not so much for dad. On the left, these are my two oldest, Jasmine, the short one, and Justice, the taller. Jasmine is 23 now and will be graduating from Compton State this year with a bachelor's in health science and / nursing. And Justice, to the right of me, is currently a sophomore at Bowie State, taking up graphic design. I'm really proud of my girls from what we grew up from. We grew up together, and I hope they surpass Dad in their professional careers. In the middle picture, this is my wife and my baby son, Junior, aka Baby Justin, and my bonus child, Ariana, to the left, who is currently in an engineer's program at Polytechnic High School in Baltimore City. On the photo on the right, the newest K, our quarantine baby, Jordan K, who just turned 1 January 9th while I was intubated, while Dad was in the hospital, and Justin, who is 5 now. My wife, when we met, had a daughter, and as I said before, I already had 2 girls, so we met and could fill 80% of a van. Now we fill all 7 seats of the van, so that's a little funny story. Justin and Jordan are the glue to the blended family. They are both related to everyone in the house, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Helping Hands is the mentoring program that I work with and work for. I really felt I needed to give back to my community for some of the things I've done in the past. And the best way I felt I could do this was be a mentor and a big brother to those on a path I know all too well, and I've been down already. My wife's best friend worked at this company, Helping Hands, around 2016 when I started. She told me a lot of great things that they were doing, and she said I would be a great fit. So I became a mentor for at-risk inner city youth. Here in this photo to the left and right of the photo is my first 5 boys. At one time, I had as many as 30 boys under my mentoring. I would like to do things with them like go to the zoo. I like to thank the ladies of 14 West who shared their zoo pass with me. We would go swimming, we ride bikes, we go to all the local parks, play basketball, basically trying to expose them to every free piece of fun I could think of, staying positive and trying to build bonds. I really think it was an excuse to relive my childhood through them, and we all loved it, so it works. I even brung some of them to the office to set up offices in 1125 when we first lit that building, exposing them to that spark that got me started in IT. This is me. So some of you may know I came down with COVID in late November. And coming down with COVID, it was so new. Everyone was saying it wasn't a big deal. You can quarantine, get flu-like symptoms, and you'll be passed right over it. Well, that's what I thought. So my mindset was, it's nothing major. I'll take some meds and I'll get past it. But I didn't get past it. In fact, they told me if I didn't get to the hospital when I did, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. Here's some of the photos my wife took screenshots for me when I was intubated for almost 5 weeks total, from December 7th to January 15th. I was in the hospital in ICU. The hospital would set up Zoom meetings with my family and loved ones. You could see me there. No visitors were able to come to the hospital during COVID, and it wasn't looking good. I was in pretty bad shape. This was really rough for my family. I would say it was rough for me, but I was asleep. My wife and kids are used to seeing Dad every day. And one day I wasn't there and they were gone. I was gone for a month. And to make matters worse, I gave all my kids COVID, even the baby. Miraculously, my wife never got it and had to worry about me, care for our kids, wearing a mask and gloves in our home. And she was breastfeeding at the time, so it was rough. I was intubated and had to be put on a ventilator to have a fighting chance. That's what they told me. My wife said I made her a promise that I would be woke and back home by Christmas. This is Christmas Eve. I was well enough to be awoken, but I wasn't out of the weeds yet. I was confused. I didn't know why I was there. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't write. I was afraid this was permanent. I remember doctors over me with tears in their eyes saying how happy they were I made it. And I was thinking, made it from what? They told me and my wife that the ventilator is supposed to supplement your breathing. And the more it's breathing for you, the worse off you are. And eventually your body gives up to that ventilator doing all the work and people don't make it. So, the ventilator is a nice word for saying life support. I was told some days, for me, the ventilator was doing 80% of my breathing. My wife said they were preparing a team to perform emergency procedures and bypasses on my lungs, something I probably would have a low rate of recovery from. I remember having weird dreams and delirium of demonic figures, and I would fight them and crawl and escape every chance I had, never gave in or submitted to my subconscious demons. I'm so blessed to have made it out of the rabbit hole that I was so deep in. Some of my friends and family members who have similar situations, they have family members who didn't make it. And I was constantly reminded how many people in my condition on that wing in ICU that didn't make it. One of the things that scared me is what would have happened if I hadn't made it back home to my family. Was I living my life right? Was I preparing for the worst? I called some people in the organization before I was put on a ventilator, let them know if I didn't make it, I just wanted them to know I was completely happy where I was in life and that nobody owes me anything. And I'm happy and humbled and felt ready for the fight ahead. This is me on the left, making it home from the hospital in late January. I found out Elizabeth Madison started a GoFundMe for me, and coworkers gave abundantly. But before I went to the hospital, I was worried, if something happened to me, will my family be okay? Will my wife be okay? Will we be financially secure? I'm always working. And my family and colleagues and friends took care of everything. I remember waking up, asking my wife what needs to be done. And she said nothing. She said, they took care of everything. Your friends, your coworkers, They took care of everything. We need nothing. So I'm in debt to everybody. All my coworkers and friends. This is me trying to figure out a way to repay you all. On the right, a few weeks later, on the right, I got a haircut, looking like I didn't have much struggle at all. How blessed am I to be able to, again, walk, talk, and work with you all. Family is everything. The work-life balance, I appreciate all the struggles that I've been through, and I hate that I had to be the COVID poster boy, but I'd rather me than any of you. All the cards all my coworkers sent, I read every one, as you can see. I read every email, every message on my phone, and it really got me out of the hospital. I was determined to get back home to friends and family. I was fortunate, my bills were paid. I had no work to do, and somebody like me needs work to do. I have a joke. I tell my wife, I'm an alley cat. I'm not a house cat. I need to get up and move and do things. I can't just sit and watch TV in the hospital. I need to get out of here. So this is my last photo. This was Easter, Resurrection Sunday. How fortunate was I? What I learned from all of this, that time is precious, and being a good guy does pay dividends in the end. Love your family and be pleasant to people around you, and go above and beyond for people in your circle. Go the extra mile. It does pay off in the end. I'm proof of that. This experience has changed me. If you think I was a people pleaser before, now I'm in debt to people and coworkers and friends, and you'll probably never hear the word no from me at any time I get a call, or any time I'm asked to help, or if anyone needs me to step in, I will. And I'll continue to do it until I can't do it anymore. What advice do I have for us? My advice is just be the best person you can be to other people. No matter their background, the title, give chances. If you're in a position as an employer, give someone a shot who normally wouldn't fill those boxes you need checked for, maybe for entry-level positions. Look at me. One of my favorite quotes from Jay-Z is, every human being has genius-level talent. There are no chosen ones. God has given everyone talent. You just have to figure out what you're good at and tap into it. And another quote I really like is, you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. And my thing is people. I'm good at people, and I love what I do. And I don't know how they pay me for this, because I probably would do it for free. And I love you all, and I'm happy that you all even spent any time thinking about me, and that's my story over the 20 years.
Thank you. Thanks for making us all cry. Again, we cry a lot on these breakfast meetings. I remember, so you said December 7th you went into the hospital.
Yeah.
Because we spoke via text on December 8th, and you said, I'll be here 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, no big deal. Stay strong.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to you again on December 9th. You sent me some texts.
Okay.
And you said, you sent me some texts, and then you called me, which shocked me to hear from you. But I was extremely appreciative. However, I didn't know how to respond. I felt a little uncomfortable. It's like, you're in the hospital, I'm home, comfortable. And when we spoke, you said you had 8 minutes before they were putting you under.
Yep.
And you said, please tell everybody I love them. Please thank everybody. And you're right. You didn't owe anybody anything. You did make that clear. You also said more than once you just wanted to be with your family. And then, as I spoke to everybody, because we had the breakfast meeting, we had the breakfast meeting. You said some other things, like you didn't know that you were going to come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, the hospital, they got the best communicators, and they didn't make any promises, and truthfully, they were right. I almost didn't make it. I've been told that plenty of times as I was awoke, that nurses would just say, I don't know how you made it.
But here's my thing. We held that breakfast meeting, and I asked everybody, if you had 8 minutes left, and you reflected on those 8 minutes, did you live the life that you wanted to live? And what would be your legacy? What were you thinking in those last 8 minutes, or what were you doing?
They told me, make your phone calls. They weren't so grim, but they was like, if things don't go your way, make sure you settle any disputes and things like that. And I called my family, and I called you and Locke and Elizabeth, letting them know that, Agora is my life at the time. And it's a big part of it. So I just wanted to thank the people I could think of quickly, how appreciative I was if things didn't go my way. And I didn't want anybody to feel, I won't say sad, but as if at this point in life, I feel like I was made whole. And my kids were on the right path, and my family was on the right path, and I've done what I could do up until this point.
And how has COVID changed you physically? I know you lost a ton of weight. How much weight did you lose?
I lost initially about 70 pounds. I was always around 240. When I came out of the hospital, I was about 185. And it wasn't the good kind of weight loss. It was the kind, I like to reference Hunger Games when they rescued Pilar and he was all small in the face and really couldn't move. That was me. I couldn't stand, I couldn't write, I couldn't talk. So, some of my effects of COVID is still, if you can hear it in my breathing, I don't have a kid. I have to stop and take breaths. I really have to think about what I have to do before I do it anymore. I can't rely on strength anymore. Now it's mostly, do you really want to lift that box? Do you want to ask for help? So it has humbled me more than, I want it to be, which is good because I'm pretty stubborn and will try to lift things I can't lift and do things I can't do. But now I'm, try to be much more patient with myself. And it's like almost have to accept help from people and explain, people ahead of time, hey, I'm back in the gym now. I love fighting. I love jujitsu and kickboxing. And I went back a couple weeks ago for the first time. And I told my coach, who I'm sure he already knows, like, hey, I'm not quitting when you see me stop. I need air. And I don't want you to think I'm quitting. I just, not where I used to be. And he's like, Justin, we know, like, don't worry about that. You're here, and that's all important. And that's how I look at it. Hopefully I'll get stronger. But for now, I'm pretty much an old man in a young man's body.
Yeah, you just keep pushing. We know you will. We've seen it. How has COVID changed you mentally? And what, maybe mattered prior to COVID that no longer matters to you?
So I would say mentally, I'm much more sympathetic to people going through things now that I've been through. This is the first time I've ever been, hospitalized or been through something, that close to death. So when I have friends who have COVID post me having COVID, and I try to pay it forward. I got to send a shout out to Colin McAdam, one of my coworkers. He sent me an oxygen reader when I just had the flu-like symptoms. And he told me, he said, if your oxygen goes below a certain point, you need to go to the hospital. And I didn't know that. No one said that at the time. So now anytime anyone in my circle has says, Justin, I got COVID too, I send them an oxygen reader and I give them that same speech that Colin gave me that probably saved my life. So to say this is, I think I'm much more patient now with people and myself. And COVID really, I'm still fighting it. I look good, but internally, I'm taking breaths. I'm slower, and my memory is affected. Some things I have to really dig into to remember. Like conversations and texts and phone calls that most people would just be able to pick up right away. Good thing I had a lot of notes written down uh, as I returned to work, and I could reference back. But my team's been really helpful and patient with me. So I would say that has also helped me get back into the swing of things.
You mentioned early on after you came out, when we spoke, you talked about some of the nightmares you had.
Mm-hmm.
And you said in one, you actually saw your son die.
Yeah, I had some weird dreams. And one of the scary ones was my son was shot in my dream. So I woke up feeling like my son was gone. And I remember having, these video visits, and my wife would say things like, I got to go wash the kids, and then she was like, Justin, and she would reference him and like, you want to see him? And I was like, no, like, I don't want to. And then I would tell the nurse, like, my son, he's not really there. I'm feeling like she's the one crazy and going through things, and I didn't want to ruin it for her. So it was really hard on me to know what was real and what wasn't. Another story is I dreamed my wife left me, and my two oldest were home by themselves, and they said, Dad, Crystal's gone. She took the kids and she's gone. So, imagine waking up with this hard belief that your wife is gone and I can't talk, and I'm trying to write down on a paper, what are you doing? Why did you do this? And eventually I came to, and she didn't leave me, but that was tough. Um, Imagine, those dreams that everyone have when the witch rides your back and you're paralyzed. That's how I woke up, in a paralyzed state that no one can understand me. I can't communicate, and it's just tears rolling down. It was no way to express myself.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions. Ro Miller, she has a two-part question. Justin, would you say that your life has guided you into someone who recognizes people like you with heart and hustle?
I believe so. I think those traits you can pick up. And I would say, if you give someone a task and they do just the task and wait for more instructions, I think I'm one of the people that do the task and try to see what else I can do until I get back to you, just to give you a little more. Like, yeah, I did this, and I also noticed this was wrong, so let's try to fix some of this too. And I think those are the traits that you can look for with people that just want to have opportunities and want to grow and move forward. I hope that answered that.
Yeah, her statement was, perhaps your next stop on this magnificent journey is interviewing and inspiring those entry-level people.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, another side story, some of you guys may or may not know, but my backup was Jonathan Kilberth. I hired him in the mailroom, and Jonathan went on to move into with the video team, and he did really well. And I took pride in Jonathan doing as well as he did, and I think he moved on to work for Sesame Street or something. Yeah, yes. So Jonathan went on to move and worked in Sesame Street, and I'm proud of him. I hired him, and he did basically the same as I did. He worked really hard in the mailroom. He got an opportunity to move on. He did. He succeeded, and he's on to bigger things. And I'm proud of that I had something to do with that.
Does Audrey have a question?
Audrey, Mom, and Donna both have a question. What did the doctor say about your immunity? And should we be careful around you?
So again, Doctors, I don't know your experience with doctors, but they don't really give you straight answers because they don't want to be wrong, and they don't unless they're 100% right. And what they told me was that I should be covered for 90 days after I was home. I had some antibodies, but as I was in the hospital, things were rapidly changing. They were People were coming in every day and in worse condition than me, believe it or not. And they really wanted to get me, out of the ICU into another wing where they could bring other people in. So I did, get my first vaccine shot a couple Saturdays ago, and I get my second shot on the 10th. And I look at it. My doctor explained it to me. He's young. It's like, Justin, you have a car with a seatbelt, but this vaccine is also an airbag. And if I could offer you an airbag for, that would also save your life, would you take the car with the airbag? Yes, I would. So I signed right up for the vaccine, and I'm not telling you all what to do, but if you feel, it would better society to get vaccinated, I suggest you get in line.
That was it. Rebecca, you had some questions. Do you want? I guess you'll have to speak loudly.
So you've been a provider for others throughout your entire life, with your family, with Helping Hands, with the company. When you had COVID, what was it like to receive support from those around you instead?
It was, total affirmation that I was doing the right things in life. I have close family members who, when I woke, they was like, Justin, you're not going to believe that your coworkers raised, so much money in such little time. And, they've seen other GoFundMes, barely break ground weeks into it. And, people, I had a cousin, my cousin Brock, who has a friend who he just was sending, they were sharing the GoFundMe. And he was saying, like, people would approach him and say, man, your cousin, I don't know him, but he must be a good guy, because I've never seen anybody raise this much money in such little time. And like I said, that affirmation was everything to me. And that really helped us out a lot to get back on our feet, when I got home.
What was it like to receive all those cards?
In the hospital life, I didn't have much to do. And I read each card, and I was surprised to get cards from everywhere, from Nicaragua, from the UK. I got emails from the Barners, Miss Barner, and I will return, each and every one of these some kind of way, that you're now a subscriber and you're on my list and you will receive promotions.
Did you have another question, Rebecca?
What recommendations do you have for ways in which we can volunteer and give back to our community in similar ways you have?
I would like to say, like I said before, if you're in a position to as an employer, give chances where you normally wouldn't. Just don't judge, a book by its cover. When I first started, I remember, I have braids again. But when I first started, I had braids and I wore jerseys to work. I really didn't understand corporate culture. And organically, I've grown into who I am now. And I really feel like I'm aligned with this company. And I would say the difference probably between me and someone else that you just hired to meet your recommendations for the position is that I really fought and will fight to see us win. I have stake in the game, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. So I think when you build, someone up, they're much more appreciative and will work hard with you to get things done.
In one of the pictures you showed some of your friends. Where are those friends now? And how come they couldn't change what you, well, I'm assuming they didn't change. How come they couldn't change what you did?
Some of my friends, they're not here anymore. They're dead, or they're in jail. And the ones that have changed, we still are close, and they tell me a lot of time they get inspiration from me. They, when I was young, the only winners I saw were the ones in the neighborhood doing wrong things. It's not that many positive winners you would see. And if you did, they more than likely moved out of the neighborhood. So you probably wouldn't come across them. There was some few, but yeah, a lot of my friends are gone. They're dead, in jail. And the ones that I do have from childhood, they've changed. They're my age. They have kids and grandkids in college, and that's the people I gravitate to. The people that've changed, and that's it for that.
I remember one of my fond memories of you is we were heading out to Harper's Ferry for a rafting trip in West Virginia, right there. And the look in your eyes when you saw the mountains.
Yeah.
I think you said that was the first time you'd ever seen the mountains.
Yeah, I have it.
Like 40 minutes away.
Yeah, it was sad. A lot of firsts for me in this company. A lot of people know my first time on a plane was a trip to Florida to visit the Delray office. I was a kid growing up here. I haven't really experienced a lot, and outside of being a juvenile in a facility on a bus to the mountains, I haven't seen much of Maryland. And now that's the things that I try to think of, like, what didn't I do as a kid that I can do with these kids and act like I know what I'm doing, and we can experience it together. So that's how I've been filling those holes with other people.
No, it's that's why I wanted you to present. It's an inspiring story. You do so much that so many people are unaware of because you just do it quietly. And but I thought we could all learn from you. Now that you've had COVID and you've come back, you talk about second chances. You probably had a third or a fourth chance now. How does this define your legacy, and what will be your legacy?
My legacy, eventually will be is a giver. I don't need anything. I tell my kids and wife, everything we have is really not for me. It's for them. I come from meager means, and I've survived on less. And I don't believe I need a lot to be happy. A lot of times just being in a new space is my cup is full. And I try to give and make people comfortable around me. And I like to let people know when I come across something good, I'm quick to tell other people, hey, man, try this or do this thing. Whatever makes me happy, try to share that happiness with other people. So hopefully my legacy is, that I wasn't selfish, that I've helped people from where I was from. I didn't leave the neighborhood behind. And I'm constantly trying to pull the ones out that I can and give them a chance at opportunities. And hopefully they run into some Bob Comptons and some Jasons and some Durrells in their life that will give them opportunities.
Okay, so it's almost 9. Do we have any final questions? No? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
We are all happy you are here with us. It was long overdue, but well worth the wait.
Thank you.
We're very proud of everything you've accomplished, and we look forward to seeing where you go and what you teach all of us going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. That's all I have. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.